And welcome back to episode number 95 of Raise the Banner podcast. It's kind of crazy to think that we are really kind of narrowing down, getting close to the big 100 here of Raise the Banner episodes. On track to be what? We're going to be right before our Christmas break. If all goes as planned.
One episode for every year I've been on Earth.
Yeah, Baby Couture might have the little hiccup into the episode schedule, but we'll see on those type of things. But
a real podcaster will podcast from the delivery room. I fully expect that. I want to see
we'll see.
I want to see Cap and Gown live stream and angry Nicole in the background strangling you.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously that will happen, but I mean, we'll see how long the episode is. But we have a lot to talk about today. We have a little bit of Red Sox, a little bit of Patriots. I do maybe if we have some time, want to jump into some Celtics as well. But to start us off, the New England Patriots are 7-2. We talked last week as more of a 2-week bunch kind of conversation. Atlanta, Tampa. Basically, we went over those two matchups, and so now we're halfway through. They took care of business in Atlanta, and by took care of business, it wasn't the prettiest win. They came out pretty strong in the first half, a little bit of a reverse of what we've seen, right? Strong first half, weak second half. They almost lost the game. They ended up holding on. Thank you, Parker Romo, former Patriot, missing the extra point. It allowed the Patriots to kind of put the ball in their hands and run out the clock and kind of control the game and not have to score after Atlanta tried tying the game there. What were your thoughts on last week here in Atlanta, facing Atlanta in that game? What are your thoughts heading into Tampa as they go down to Florida for the Week 9 matchup?
I mean, felt good. The first half was really good. I thought the defense got after it. The offense looked pretty good. Kind of a tale of two tapes. Like the second half.
You muted yourself. How do you manage to do that in the middle of the conversation?
That was kind of the sloppy half, right? So they had, the Drake May interception, fumble. There was the fumble because he lost a fumble and recovered his own fumble, right? There were two fumbles, but one of them he didn't lose. And I mean, some of that can be attributed to Christian Gonzalez missed a decent amount of the second half. I had a handful of things going on that I had to wrap up, so I didn't see much of the second half, unfortunately, but Christian Gonzalez going down didn't really help much. I realized that Drake London was also making some absolutely insane plays. So I don't really know as if like prime Darrelle Revis could have stopped him completely. He was just going off in the second half. Obviously they got the stop when they needed to. A couple of times, I know they held him to a field goal, like late third, early fourth, whatever it was. And then of course Parker Romo misses what would have been the game tying extra point. And then the offense did what they needed to. They converted on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 to Hunter Henry, and then they're able to kneel out the game. So, good on them for eking out a win. Certainly could clean up some stuff. And hopefully they can take care of that against Tampa this weekend. Not sure what the offense is going to look like for Tampa. Both Godwin and Bucky Irving missed practice today, so who knows? But obviously feeling good about a win, and we'll see what happens this weekend in Florida.
Yeah, Ben used the exact words I was going to use, and like the tale of two halves, really, for the offense in particular. I think the defense, even with Gonzalez out, was fine. Only held them to 9 points in the second half. A shutout third quarter, but the fumble at the end of the first half where Drake fumbled it away. They were going for it. I realized that going up, going to score at least a field goal in that situation. Drake said
completely flipped the game.
What?
It completely flipped the game.
Oh, 100%. That brought them right back into the game. I believe that made it 21-14, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, instead of what was probably going to be 24-7 going into the half with the ball
easily.
Start the second half.
And then I think that they just try to play catch up at the end of it, try to keep the ball more protected. The interception I put maybe more on Henry than I do on Drake May. Hunter just never turned his head around and never got in position to make the catch. But overall, defense looked good. Like you said, Ben, Drake London, especially on that one-handed leaping catch in the end zone for I believe was his second touchdown, was just an unbelievable catch. And yeah, he had 3 on the day, just all over the field. Really couldn't stop him. But everybody else was pretty much held in check. I believe is it the 8th week in a row we've held a running back to under 50 yards. And to do that against Bijan is
ninth week. They haven't allowed a single 50-yard rusher all season.
Oh yeah, 9th week. So yeah, 7 and 9. Good job.
This is week. What is this? Week 10.
This is week
going
10.
Going into week 10. They've allowed more than 100 yards rushing in the game, but they have not allowed a single rusher to go for 50 or more rushing yards.
Yeah.
Bijan, I think he had 90,
He had
like
46.
95. He had 90 some odd total yards because I think he had but yeah, which is to be expected when you figure linebackers typically cover running backs, and we don't have linebackers who can cover very well, so that's not surprising. But yeah, they kept him in check on the ground. I think he finished 12 carries for 46 yards.
Yeah, it was just under 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, but yes. So yeah, but go ahead.
No, that's all I was going to say is now that we've done it against Bijan, we've done it against some pretty big name running backs like James Cook. He had 49, just under that 50-yard limit, and then Bijan now. So going forward, to answer about Tampa,
Judkins too. I mean,
Judkins is there's one more as well. Yeah. So going into Tampa, especially if Bucky Irving's out, there's a good chance we do it again. They have a good defense as well, but yeah, all vibes are up. Vibes are as high as they could be, and the only way they could be even better is if they did quite literally anything at the deadline, but they did not do.
Yeah, this was the perfect for me. This game was the perfect 98-5 game, and I say that because if you're the morning show or maybe Felger, Zolak and Bertrand, you can look at this game and say, well, a team that is 7-2, they won another game. It's not always going to be pretty. They squeaked out a win. This is what good teams do. Or you could take it as the afternoon show in the Felger and Maz Road, and you could be like, well, this is the beginning of the end. They're turning the ball over again. There's big mistakes. They're not going to beat good teams like this. It's all about how you want to kind of look at it. And I think it's a little bit of both, right? They certainly do need to clean it up. Drake May can't, he had a pretty bad interception the prior week against Cleveland. That was a little bit more it was just a plain miss. He just didn't see the guy, and that's going to happen. And then this week, another two mistakes, maybe arguably 3 mistakes. He certainly needs to clean it up on his end. I think the O-line this week, Atlanta's got a really good pass rush. Cleveland's got a good pass rush. So, the O-line the last couple of weeks has been relatively shaky. They took 6 sacks this past week. So things haven't been perfect the last couple of weeks. You can look at it as a whole and say they certainly need to be better. But in the end, they won both of those games. So it's tough to kind of get overly negative about them. But you also need to be realistic in the sense of they're not playing as good as they could either. They definitely should be playing better football, and they're playing against a team like Atlanta where going into the second quarter, they had that game wrapped up basically. With 2 minutes left in the second quarter, they had a chance to basically kind of put that game away. really go into the half and put that game. I don't want to say put it on ice, but like go into half with their foot on their throat, going up 24-7 with the ball at half. Like you come back, you're going into half. Atlanta is going to come out pretty deflated at that point. They come out instead. Big mistake. My boy Jelon Walker made a big play on Drake May. I have to point that out.
Of course.
Made a big play on Drake May though, and completely flips the game. And then they were pretty stagnant the entire second half, right? They didn't really make much big plays. They were pretty flat. They didn't execute tremendously well in the second half. The defense as a whole, though, played pretty well, I would say. 23 points, obviously, they allowed, but what was that? 7 of that was basically at the start of the Drake May turnover, right?
Mm-hmm.
They brought it down inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So I'm going to scratch that. That brings it down to 16 points. And then, so you allow 16 points to any team like that. That's pretty good football. You really can't exactly ask much better than that. You allow 16 points to a football team that has, I would say, a competent quarterback, a legitimate wide receiver one, and arguably the best running back in football.
Yeah.
Like
the drive you were talking about, by the way, was a 6-yard drive.
Yeah, like
not exactly.
You can't exactly put that on the defense. So as a whole, the defense did what they were supposed to do. So you feel a little bit optimistic heading into the Tampa game on that end, right? So obviously, like you said, Bucky Irvin and Godwin are both out so far through Wednesday. Let's just assume that they're out. The Patriots have a good shot of facing a pretty short-handed Tampa offense. And one thing that when we talk about when I said it was a 90-85 game, that in the brief time that the morning show talks actual sports, they made a decent point that we're now at the point where teams, when they come to play New England, they're coming in not expecting to run the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not coming in with a game plan of we're running the football. Now, most teams are going to still come in hoping to run the football, and they're going to try to establish it early, but they're going to make a 1 or 2 drive effort, and if it's not working, they're going to probably abandon it pretty quickly. So that is something that going forward until the Pats, maybe light up or they let up some big games, that we're going to see teams play. And when we talk about the Vrabel effect on this defense, that's what's the biggest, I think, improvement that we're seeing as the season goes on. Is now we're going to have this like Tampa offense come in here and say, they're not going to come in here and expect to run the ball. They're going to come in here and going to say Baker Mayfield's going to have to beat them. And that dude can ball out, but when you're already missing guys and you know that you're going to be almost pretty close to one-dimensional, that really handicaps you as an offense coming in to play a team. And that's where the Patriots are going to have a big advantage, obviously.
Yeah, so just like on a couple things. So I brought up the Pro Football Focus. They do weekly offensive line rankings ahead of certain games. So they had the Pats as their 6th ranked offensive line unit going into the Atlanta game, knocked them down to 11 after the game, and basically wrote this. They said the Pats offensive line took a step back and struggled in week 9, albeit in a win over the Falcons. Across 40 pass plays, they gave up 15 pressures, 3 of which resulted in sacks, resulting in a 77.5 pass blocking efficiency rating, ranking 3rd last in the NFL. And then they wrote it. So they have best player is still Will Campbell, and say that he was the only bright spot in week 9 with a 72.1 overall grade, and that right tackle Morgan Moses is in the midst of a rough stretch. Only gave up 3 pressures in 4 games from weeks 4 through 7. but over the last 2 weeks, he's allowed 7 pressures, but none, if there's a silver lining, none have resulted in a quarterback hit or a pressure. I'm sorry, a QB hit or a sack. And then just to touch on the whole running aspect. So running backs that they've faced this year and have not given up 50 yards to, James Cook, who averages 108 yards a game, Rico Dowdle, just under 82 yards a game, although I don't know if he played against us that week. I'd have to go back and look. Bijan Robinson's averaging 77.4. Again, would have been higher before because they just played him. Judkins is averaging just under 70. Devon Achane is averaging 67. Genty 61. So, like, there's other guys in here that they've played that have not, done as well, but just goes to show. I mean, James Cook is leading the NFL in yards per game this year. And I'm pretty sure he's second in total yards, behind only Jonathan Taylor, who thankfully the Patriots will not see this year. But yeah, I think that just overall speaks to, Matt, your point about how, like, when teams come in, they have to come in expecting that their running game is not going to be as effective as they're used to it being. And that really does limit teams to being, I guess I'll say 1.5 dimensional, because I think that, teams can still get effective, running at a certain guys. They just have to do it with multiple bodies. One guy isn't going to beat the Patriots. But, look at the Cleveland game, right? Like Judkins was on a good stretch, and I know that he missed the first 4 weeks of the season because he was suspended. But when they shut the running game down, like, Dylan Gabriel's not going to beat you even with an effective running game. But it just goes to show that if you can't run and your quarterback isn't a reason you can win games, you're going to have a hard time beating the Patriots. And I think that, this week is a big test. Even if Bucky Irving's not playing, like, Rachaad White is not that far removed from being a really good two-way type of player.
He's a good back.
Not as good as a Bijan Robinson, but stylistically very, very similar. Like, speedy back who is effective both running and catching passes out of the backfield. So he's good. So even without Bucky Irving, like, they're still going to have to worry about him. But I think this is a good test where you're going up against, probably the second best quarterback that they will have seen so far this season. And I mean, they're handicapped by injuries, right? They don't have Mike Evans. They might not have Chris Godwin. They might not have Bucky Irving. I know that Egbuka's been banged up a little bit, but he should be healthy and good to go. But against, even still a pretty good offense, I think this is a good test for them.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to, the point you made, Matt, earlier about, like, Mike Vrabel, the Mike Vrabel effect, it to a greater extent, it's more so like the veteran leadership, the veteran presence that this team has this year versus years past. Like, last year, Drake May gives up that fumble, that comes out and throws a bad pick. Like, who's to say that wouldn't ruin his confidence, and now he's off for the rest of the game, and they go down there and lose that game or whatever the case. Like, you saw him on the sidelines, kind of coaching him out, not chewing him out for a bad fumble, not chewing him out for, throwing to a guy who wasn't getting his head around or whatever the case. And then you got guys like Stephon Diggs as well, who every week, just shows up and he has proven himself as that leader, certainly in the wide receiver room, if not for the entire offense. He definitely showed his presence in the Buffalo game. You thought maybe that was just the fluke trying to get, his personal juices flowing. And then you can see it basically every other week since that he's vocal, he's active, he's in the huddle, on the sidelines, on the bench. He's hyping everybody up, in a way that we haven't seen it in the past couple of years. Like, certainly not last year, and certainly not the end of Bill Belichick's era here, where guys were afraid to kind of make a mistake. Now it's like, not encouraged, obviously, but if you make a mistake, you don't have to fear for getting off the field for the remainder of the game, and even if in the next week. So I think just the veteran leadership, the veteran presence, and the difference in styles has certainly allowed these players to be more loose and just play with the confidence and the swagger that they haven't had the ability to in, like I said, last couple of coaches.
Yeah, I mean their effect, the effect that Vrabel has had on this team in a big picture, I think the biggest day-to-day effect, game-to-game effect, has been beyond the preparedness of the team. It goes into the confidence from each player game to game and the willingness to buy in game to game.
Mhm.
Right. So, I think every player to an extent is prepared each game. How prepared were they under Mayo? Like that they really should be. That's obviously a wild subjective conversation that you could get into for hours, but they're clearly bought into what Mayo is selling. They're clearly bought into McDaniels as an offense, and he deserves all the praise as well. I was hesitant about bringing him back. I really wasn't sure if he was the best option.
I mean, we were all pretty critical of the hiring in a sense of not critical that Josh McDaniels couldn't cut it, but I think we were all pretty equally critical of why are we going back to the same well for a third time? Like, is this really the best option?
There's a sense of been there, done that,
it was a we know he's solid, but is he the best option?
Yeah.
We know he's probably going to be a good OC, but is he the best option? Is he going to be a great OC? And again, props to him. He's been great for Drake May, and I was on here early in the season and I was on X, and I was saying, I really like what we're seeing in the slow development week to week, but then I was like, I wanted to see them get more vertical, and then we saw weeks 4, 5, 6, 7. All of a sudden, they started getting a little bit more and more and more vertical, and now we're seeing the more and more deep shots to Kayshon Boutte, and then all of a sudden now we're seeing like Demario Douglas, who I don't know if we really ever thought of him as being a potential deep threat guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's working for him, right? Instead of clearly he is struggling against getting open down underneath, and that wasn't working for him. Excuse me. And they've kind of transformed his role a little bit, and they're using him a little bit more on down the field, speed, crossing patterns, and it's working to get him open and use his speed and use his ability to get open downfield. And that's clearly something that is new to him and new to this offense, and it's opened up a whole new development into his game that we haven't seen before. And again, that's a props to Josh McDaniels. Like, that is something that I don't think as many Patriots fans really expected. I don't think anybody before the season was like, hey, let's turn Demario Douglas into like Tyreek Hill light. I don't know, just to give you an example, or like
third week of the season we wanted to trade him after we lost to Pittsburgh. Everyone was like, get rid of him.
Yeah,
he get 15 yards, and now he has 2 signature games in this year alone.
Yeah, I don't want to say obviously he's not Tyreek Hill caliber, but like that small, speedy, deep threat guy. Who's
just throw it to him in space, and you'll make
a Kenny Stills, or I don't know why that name just came to my head out of all like names possible that could. But like, you know what I mean? That small, deep threat, speedy guy that can get open, and if that's a role for him that works, then great. Like that could be a real nice bonus for this team.
Sure.
Yep. Now on that, real quick, I was just looking this up. So Douglas currently ranks 52nd in the NFL this year in yards per target, which I'm going to guess would be the receiver equivalent to like depth of target for quarterbacks. That's how kind of I read that. Would you agree, or am I wrong?
Yards per target?
Right, like that to me tells me like how many yards down the field is he on average when targeted. Right? It's like so he ranks 52nd.
Problem is, early in the season, he wasn't getting much of that. So it's probably
Yeah.
a little bit
Well,
deflated.
Here's where I'm going with this. He currently ranks, he's 52nd in the NFL. That's not where I was going with this. But he currently ranks ahead of the following wide receivers on average yards per target. T. Higgins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashee Rice, Ted McMillan, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Malik Neighbors. Granted, Neighbors only had 4 games, so take that with a grain of salt. But he's
I could have told you
averaging
Rice. Rice and Mahomes, between the two of them, are a line of scrimmage merchant together.
So, but I'm just saying, Rashee Rice is a downfield threat in a certain sense of that he's good with the ball after the catch. And so, but you look at a guy like T. Higgins is not he's your typical big-bodied possession, get some yards. But Jamar Chase
Holy shit, did he have a nice catch this past weekend?
Yeah, but like Jamar Chase, for example, is a true downfield, take the top off the defense player, and Douglas is averaging more a deeper target, a deeper depth of target on receptions than a guy like Jamar Chase. So it's I think so.
Yeah.
Being 52nd, not saying that that's good, but to be ahead of certain guys is crazy when you have somebody
He'll probably climb even higher as the season goes along, because I would think that
if you want to take
first
a wild
few weeks.
That's true, yeah. Well, in the first couple of weeks, what did he have? -6 yards after the first 2 or 3 games or something like that?
Yeah, well, and because it's target, not completion, right? So
correct.
Even the target. So the first 4 weeks or so of the season, he was probably the target percentage was all around the line of scrimmage. So it's probably really low in the first 4 weeks. I don't know if you can script it just the last 6 weeks. He's probably in the top 25 in the last 6 weeks or so.
That's true.
If you
had to,
who's number 1 on that list? Who are the top 5, 10?
But for example, if you had to take a wild guess, who currently leads the NFL in average yards per target?
I mean, I would have said.
Is it a nobody?
No.
It's a notable name.
Yes.
Does CD? No, he's been hurt for a while.
Jameson Williams.
Who leads the league in receiving yards right now?
Jameson Williams is 25th, 9.9 yards per target. This wide receiver is averaging a 13.9 yards per target.
What conference is he in?
AFC.
Well, it's not like Tyreek Hill and he just got hurt, right?
No, it's not Tyreek Hill. You're in the right division, though.
It's not Jalen Waddle, is it? No.
Nope.
It's not Garrett Wilson.
Nope.
Is it Diggs?
Nope. Right team, though.
Right? Oh, Kayshon Boutte?
Oh, Kayshon Boutte
leads the NFL.
Yeah, I should have known that.
Because all he does is just throw nine. Okay, that makes sense.
It's funny because Luke McCaffrey is number 2 on that list. But you have some bigger names at the top, like DeAndre Hopkins in 8 games is 12.8. JSN is 12.
JSN. I love JSN being that high.
Yeah.
Just because he was called the slot merchant, don't take him. He's a slot receiver, blah, blah, blah.
Quick tangent on that. Looking back, if you could do it over again, trade aside, would you still take Christian Gonzalez or would you draft JSN?
No, I would draft JSN.
Fair. Okay.
I love Christian Gonzalez, but JSN's a stud. And I scream this to the moon for weeks upon weeks, leading that into that draft, that JSN was the best player in that draft. I mean, the best receiver in that draft. And some people had him too, so it's not like I was the lone bird in that conversation. But the dude just gets it.
Yeah,
he knows how to get open. He has good hands. He's fast. He's quick. He's strong. He's not huge. He's not a big guy, but the dude just gets the position.
Yeah. He was the first wide receiver drafted that year.
Was he 20th?
Yeah,
21st?
20th overall to see. He started a string of 4 straight wide receivers. It was
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it was like right after. It was like JSN, Zay,
Quentin Johnson,
Addison,
and
then
Quentin
Jordan
Johnson, then
Addison.
Addison.
So it was JSN, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison in that order.
The Chargers passed up on Zay and who'd you just say? Jordan Addison. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I know that he's been borderline irrelevant lately, but Quentin Johnson came out of the gates with his pants on fire to start the year.
he was good in college too. I was surprised at
who
how
was the
bad he
fifth-
actually was in LA.
Who was the 5th wide receiver in that group? Because I had Quentin Johnson ranked 5th.
Jaden Reed to the
No.
Jonathan Mingo to the Panthers.
No, I
Yes.
had Quentin but no, I had Quentin Johnson ranked.
I understand
Fifth.
what you're saying. The 5th wide receiver in the draft was Jonathan Mingo at 39 to the Carolina
Okay,
Panthers.
well, that's not what I'm.
He's saying one of the top 5 like wide receiver rankings. What year was that? 2023.
I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. So the top, 2023. So JSN, Johnson, Addison, Flowers.
Jalen Hyatt.
Let's see.
No,
Josh
I
Downs.
had I.
Mingo,
No, I might have had him as
Jaden
my
Reed.
4th.
Mingo, Jaden Reed, Marvin Mims, Tank
I might have
Dell.
had him as my 4th. Hold on.
Tank Dell was a 3rd round pick. Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Josh Downs.
I lied. He was
Michael
he was my wide receiver 4. I had it as JSN, Zay, Addison, QJ, Josh Downs, Marvin Mims, Jonathan Mingo, Cedric Tillman, Jaden Reed, Tank Dell was my top 10.
I mean,
And you said Mingo. So Mingo was my 7th, and he was the 5th guy.
He was the 5th guy off the board. And then Jaden Reed went 50th to the Packers. Rashee Rice went 55th to the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was
wasn't
probably
right
the
after
biggest
we
miss.
made a pick. Like I feel like I looked this draft up, and I feel like it was the 2 of them went right after we picked like someone useless.
Middle of the 2nd round.
So
I
this,
think.
so this is a post from me on February 22nd, 2024, and I said I'm still working through this class, so this must have been the 2024 class. And I said, but comparing the 2 classes, I would have the 24 and the 23 ranked with Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, then JSN, Rome, Zay, Brian Thomas Jr., Addison, and then QJ.
Yeah.
Which, going back, Marvin Harrison the number 1 above them all doesn't look
No, I feel
the best.
Yeah, I mean that's true. So 2nd round that year, Patriots went Keon White 46.
Ugh.
You
And
hear the
then-
story about Keon White and with Belichick?
Yes, I've heard it. I don't think that was. I feel like I've heard that before, where he was between Gonzalez and Keon White. Like
They had to like beg Belichick not to take Keon White instead of Christian Gonzalez.
such a joke, dude.
Wait, what?
So apparently, after they traded back, Belichick wanted to take Keon White, and the
Gross.
rest of the room wanted Christian Gonzalez. And like, it's not that like Belichick didn't like Christian Gonzalez either, but like if it was like 100% solely up to Belichick, he probably would have taken Keon White. But
Yeah,
they had to like talk him out of not taking Keon White. And so not only
That would
Not
explain
only-
that would explain why he traded back, because he had no interest. He wasn't going to take Gonzalez at 14, and he's like, "Oh well, I know I can get this guy later, so I might as well just trade back."
well, not only did he not end up being that good or not good, really good at all, he ended up being there in the 2nd round, like
Yeah,
for them. So like it would have been a massive overpick at 17, on top of the fact that he would have also not been that good.
Yeah,
wouldn't have been Bill's first reach. He had 5 years in a row of making a reach. But yeah, to answer your question of who I'd rather pick, Gonzalez or JSN, like kind of right there. I probably still would have picked Gonzalez, because I don't think that JSN would be JSN that he is today with our system. I think that's just a black hole for rookies when it comes out to wide receivers. They especially in Bill's system, they could not figure it out.
That was
Now,
what, the
we'll see what happens with
2023
Kyle
draft?
Williams, but what?
That was the 2023 draft.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask it online.
So let's see. For whatever reason, he doesn't have a draft like combine profile page. I wonder if he skipped the combine. Which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I don't know why he's not showing up as in here. So NFL Draft Buzz. Let's see. Draft profile. Let's see. Do they have like a projection? What I was looking for was where the NFL scouts projected he would get drafted. Keon White. They don't have an NFL.
He was like a mid to high second.
Yeah, I'm on NFL Draft Buzz. Usually they have granted he got drafted already, so maybe that's why it doesn't exist. But usually, if you look ahead, and I know it's not the best website because it crashes often, but usually with prospects they'll be like, oh, this player comps out to this equivalent NFL player, but they don't have that for him.
NFL.com isn't working on mine right now, but yeah, I mean at the time of the pick, I thought it was a decent pick. It just obviously didn't pan out, and if he ended up taking him at 17 and it didn't work, that would have been an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
And we would we would be looking at that draft and this team completely different right now, completely
100%.
different. If we had Keon White and obviously, then you have to look into who they would have taken at the top of the second instead of Keon White. And so that's tough to really gauge. But 2023.
I just looked it up. Bleacher Report had Keon White's NFL comp as Carlos Dunlap.
I mean, that's decent.
Would have been fine in the second round, but.
So Keon White went.
I think he said 46th, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So it's really tough to gauge who the Patriots would have been taken if they took Keon White in the first round. Maybe they take a Jaden Reed, a wide receiver, or maybe they take a Rashee Rice at 55, or a John Michael Schmitz, the O lineman. It's really tough to gauge, but the basis of the fact would be that it would have been a massive miss, and we would be a completely different spot right now.
100%.
But speaking of Gonzalez, Ben offered, speaking of the trade deadline and everything that happened, we obviously saw Sauce Gardner move for 2 first-round picks. And so Ben kind of threw out this hypothetical. Let's say the Patriots make it a little bit of a run. They don't win the Super Bowl, and a team comes calling. I'll throw this out there because the Rams own Atlanta's pick, right?
Okay.
So they own 2 first-round picks. So the Rams would be in a spot where they could do this. Let's say the Rams have the 13th pick, which is Atlanta's pick. Atlanta ends up around 13. And they offer that pick, the Rams 2027 first, and a 3rd-round pick for Christian Gonzalez. Is it something you consider if you're the Patriots?
His contract is up after this year or next year?
No, so this is only year 3. So he'll have
your option after that.
Then they have 5th. So they'll technically have 2 more years of control.
Okay.
They'll be eligible to extend him this year, so that so they could offer him and lock him in after this year. Obviously, the question becomes: they're playing a little bit more zone right now. They're definitely more of a zone team right now than they have been in the past. So that the question becomes, how much are you going to value corners in that scheme? And two, obviously, there's a little bit of an injury worry with Christian Gonzalez. That being said, he is still on both ends, an elite corner.
A star, yeah.
But obviously, you do then have to pay him elite money.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation becomes, do you want to pay? Now, this is going to end up being, what, $30 million a year, something like that, for a guy that you're going to play a little bit more zone than you would for a guy that you want to typically pay $30 million a year. So, you know, again, I'm not looking into a ton into this rookie class yet, but you would have to imagine at that 13th pick, you're probably looking at the second, maybe third best corner in the draft.
Yep.
On top of obviously another first and a third round pick. And then so the question becomes like, is it something, again, it's a hypothetical, but you know, is that something that you could like, you could see yourself considering, you think?
I mean, me personally, I'd have a tough time wrapping my head around it. But as you were going through that, right, you're starting to think about, you know, okay, are they going to pony up the 30 mil or whatever it is? At that point, is it even higher than 30 mil? I'm sure someone's going to get paid, more than him. Can they not make ends meet on the contract? We know Rabel doesn't like his soft tissue injury, guys, and Gonzalez had a hamstring thing this year. I feel like that could be lingering. He obviously didn't get hurt with the hamstring this week, but is that a concern, right? Is the hamstring a bothersome thing moving forward? Do they move into the zone thing, as you said? So if it's all three of those, I could see Rabel and his team making the move to make, to get more depth and get additional pieces elsewhere and save that money. And maybe you're spending that 13th pick on a better scheme fit for a corner. Me personally, like I said, I'd have a hard time wrapping my head around it. But if they can't come to a contract agreement, and if Rabel starts to think that he can get someone more healthy and a bit more reliable that fits the scheme better, yeah, I can certainly see, them using those funds that they would have paid for Gonzo and use it elsewhere at maybe 2 players or 3 players even, so, but yeah, we have next year to think about that. But I mean, unless someone blows you away with an offer with like two first round picks, maybe even a first or a third first, I'm holding on to them. But.
I think that they need to make a decision on if they want to extend him. I want to get it done this offseason, right? I want to get it locked in. I don't want to dally around, have his value go up, have the market value go up, and then always. We see these teams do this all the time with receivers. Oh, I want to wait another year, and then 2-3 more players top the market, and then what you could have got for $28 million now turned into $32 million because you waited around. If you love them, you want to keep them, lock them in.
Yeah.
If you decide, this really comes down to like, it shouldn't, as long as it is not, we don't want to spend reasonings, I would be fine with it as long as you're taking that money and using it in a different way, right?
Yeah.
You're saying we don't want to sign Gonzalez because we don't think that he is a guy that we want to invest this type of money in, and we can get the assets back, and we can then use that money and sign a receiver, we can sign a different cornerback, we can sign an elite edge rusher, or we can go sign a Hendrickson for $40 million a year for the next 2 years or something like that instead, and trade Christian Gonzalez, and then you can vice versa. Yeah. It just can't be. It can't be we don't want to spend the money. Obviously, that's where the big no for me obviously comes into this.
Of course,
but. I'm not gonna in terms of is Gonzo worth the money right now? There's a little bit of a question mark, right?
Yeah.
Can he stay healthy? the rest of this season, I think, is really big for him. He seems to be okay. He doesn't have a concussion. He should be fine for this week.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, continues, plays well the rest of the year, I think it's really big for him to kind of play back out that value. And, if he missed just the first 4 games of this year, that's really not a big deal. Like, players miss time. It's not the biggest deal. The injury tag that you put on players won't be very high on him if he plays out the rest of the year healthy and all that. But if he has another injury, he misses more time, then it starts to become what do you do with this guy? Is he worth extending? Is he worth keeping around? And then the other option would obviously be you could hold on and say, we don't know what we want to do. If you don't know, you don't want to extend them, and you don't get the offers this offseason. If a team's only offering the 1 first or something, like whatever it is, you could obviously just keep him around, pick up the option, and his trade value, if he could rebound, his trade value will probably be the same after the 2026 season.
Yeah,
as it would be the 2025 season, as long as he rebounds. But with that said, where this team is going, if they have the opportunity, like we said, if we have the opportunity to get a top 15 pick, another first and a third, and then they commit to using that money, and they commit to still spending on other spots, it's something I would consider. It's not like I'm not jumping off the page to let's trade Christian Gonzalez, but it's obviously something I think that you would have to consider if someone puts that 2 firsts plus on the table. Ben's original proposal to me was basically the same as the Colts, which was let's say the Rams offered their first, which would probably be a late first in a future first. And I'm at that point, I'm more wary, right? Because then you're looking at
one more year of eligibility left. If it's
looking
option, then maybe
at that
not.
point you're the cornerback 5, 6. Yeah. You're looking at the late first. At that point, I'm I don't know if that's really worth it for a guy that is already very, very good. But if you get into that top 15 range, top 12 range, then you start getting into the conversation where you can get a very good player in that range. And the 2027 class is supposed to be, and it's, I don't want to buy too much into it, but it's supposed to be a very, very, very good class. So if you obviously could stock up an extra first for that class, even if it's a late pick, that's something that could be huge down the road in terms of
or do whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's certainly something that I would consider. But what were your overall thoughts on the lack of moves from the Patriots?
I was disappointed, a little surprised that they just didn't do anything. I mean, there were talks about them being in on Jalen Phillips for a third. I probably would have done that. He ended up going to the Eagles. Outside of that, I mean, there were certainly guys that they could have swung big for. Obviously, AJ Brown, the Brian Thomases. But in terms of depth pieces that we had talked about, even last week, I was surprised. Right, Logan Wilson goes to the Cowboys for a 7th. That felt like a very, very doable move. I already mentioned Jalen Phillips. There was other moves that I thought could have been made if you want to get more depth at running back, especially if you think that Ramondre is going to be out. They had the capital to move, and I thought they were going to. Now, I get it. You're not trying to mortgage the future or anything like that. I don't think that the moves that they could have made to get more depth pieces would have in any way mortgaged the future. But, I mean, the team's been playing well. They have a relatively easier schedule, all things considered, especially if Tampa is without Bucky Irving and without Chris Godwin, even without one of the two of those, because the Jets just had a complete fire sale. If you thought it was a win before, it's certainly a win now. So they're, for all intents and purposes, their season just got a little bit easier. So I wasn't pissed that they didn't do anything, but I certainly was a little surprised and like disappointed that they couldn't at least go out and make a move to add somebody in on top of getting rid of guys like Duggar and Keon White.
Yeah, I mean, they were, it's tough that you want them to add. It was a little disappointing that they didn't add. I was expecting at least a depth piece or two.
Mm-hmm.
I heard through the grapevines that some of the guys that they were interested in. We heard from a couple other reports. Jalen Phillips was a guy that they reached out on. I had heard on Minka Fitzpatrick as well.
Mm-hmm.
That price was just too high. Dax Hill from Cleveland was a guy I know they reached out on. That price again also was. It just seemed it was a day 2 pick, something that I just don't think that they were willing to give up for a guy that's going on to a 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm.
It really hasn't been playing tremendously well football. It didn't really make a lot of sense in terms of my asking for a day 2 pick for him. Samaje Perine was another guy I had heard that they were inquiring about, but he hurt his ankle this past week. He looks like he's going to be out at least a few weeks. So that kind of blew that idea up. And then I don't know a name. I know that they had, and this was kind of indirectly confirmed by that Pretty Ricky account. But I had also heard this through a couple other avenues that they had some sort of deal basically in place for a running back. I don't know what stalled it. This is just my guess. My guess, it might have been Tony Pollard. And what stalled it was Tennessee's owner refusing to give him to New England. Again, that's just my guess. But what I kind of gathered was they kind of had a deal almost like ready to go. And then for some very kind of unusual reasoning, it didn't end up happening. And then finally, I know that they did make an offer to AJ Brown, to the Eagles for AJ Brown about 2 weeks ago, prior to the deadline when things were going pretty hectic over there in Philly. My understanding in Philly is they wanted the conversations started with a first and a player. The Patriots, I don't think were really in that ballpark. My guess would have been that they were looking for something around for a first, maybe someone like a Booty or a Kyle Williams, and maybe a little bit of a filler or something like that. And the Patriots just weren't in that area, all things considered. But I think that they sat closer into we'll give you a second. I also heard Booty's name was originally floated into those conversations. But again, this was like a 2 or 3 week ago conversation. So I don't know how deep it got into those conversations as well. But as a whole, like you said, it was disappointing. I expected them to make a little bit of a depth add or two. Mm-hmm. We heard the Jets weren't willing to add in trade in the division, which is just stupid. And I can understand not trading Sauce Gardner or even Williams in the division, but if you have a depth piece or even a running back like Breece Hall, and you got the best offer from in the division, take the best offer in the division type of thing. And then Tennessee.
That's just not a reality, though.
I mean, we see trades in the division relatively decent amount these days.
Name the last interdivision trade.
Joe Flacco.
We just saw Joe Flacco traded in a quarterback traded in the
quarterback traded.
To be fair, you're talking about a 40-year-old quarterback who wasn't going to play long term for the Browns. not
it's still a quarterback. They gave the Bengals their starting quarterback, like a starting quarterback to start.
Yeah.
I mean, fair, but I guess my point is, I don't think it's as common as it might seem.
It's not super common. It's not.
No.
It's not super common. But I mean, trades in the NFL aren't super common in terms of like.
No, that's true. But I think that if you're,
you generally always avoid trading in the division,
right? Like if you're the Eagles, you're not going to trade somebody to the Giants or the Cowboys, even if they give you the best offer, because you just don't do anything to make your rival a better team on principle. Even if the offer is, I mean, you'd have to be talking about either the only offer and you have to trade somebody, or significantly better than any other offer before you would see, like I bet you if the Patriots offered 4 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner, they're not trading him to New England. They still would have sent him to Indy.
I disagree. If you doubled the offer, that it put this way: if I was an owner and I found out that they took half the offer to not trade him in the division, I would fire my GM. I'd fire him in a heartbeat.
I mean, that's
it would be one thing if you were saying
that's how NFL teams. I mean, look at Bill Belichick. He allegedly turned down 2 first-round picks from the Cleveland Browns just so he could send Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers and send him out of the conference and to the other side of the country for a significantly worse offer.
And he should have been fired for it.
But that's not how teams.
And that was a horrible decision.
He should have been fired for that as well as other things. But that was the first.
I mean, obviously you can look back with hindsight being 2020. Like trading away Jimmy was not a franchise-altering poor decision. But like that's just teams. That's how they operate. They don't make trades. You don't make a trade to make your arch rival a better team, even if the arch rival is offering you the best offer. It just doesn't.
I agree that you generally try to avoid it.
Yeah,
I think you generally try to avoid it. But in a situation where you're the Jets and you're like in a full-blown sell mode, and you know the Patriots are calling on.
Keep in mind, the owner also said we're not in sell mode. His exact words were, "We're not tearing this down."
Yeah, well, you traded your 2 best players away, so I don't know how you argue that.
The reality is, teams, you just don't trade with your arch rival. It just doesn't.
Anyways,
happen.
if you're in a situation where you're selling off your pieces and you have no chance of competing, and a team in your division comes and offers a 4th-round pick, and the next team is offering a 5th-round pick.
You take the 5th-round pick and
that's just bad. Like, that's just bad football. Like that's just bad management. You are hurting yourself as a football team by doing that.
By not making my arch rival better, I would 100% take the lesser draft pick to
You're not. Again, I'm not talking about like trading them. I'm not talking about like trading them a superstar where you're taking a slightly better offer. I'm talking about like
you're trading
them. Of course it matters.
No.
Of course it matters.
I mean, look at Cleveland. Do you think Cleveland regrets trading Joe Flacco when he's literally lighting up defenses for other teams and their quarterback literally can't throw the ball?
They probably don't really care because they were going to suck anyways. Like they probably don't really care. Like, and they really shouldn't care. It looks bad because first of all, it's a quarterback. It's a little bit, it's a little bit of a different like conversation, but like in a big picture, you are just hurting yourself. And it's one thing if you're like trading a superstar player, and I understand like if you're trading like the Bengals are trading T. Higgins, he's on the market, and the Steelers come and offer a first. That let's say it's draft night and the Steelers are offering the 15th pick, and the next best pick is the 25th pick. I could understand taking the 25th pick and not the 15th pick.
I would take a 3rd round pick over sending him to my arch rival for a mid first round pick.
That
is the reality of football. You can disagree.
I don't care.
That's not what you would do. That's the reality of the situation.
But like when you're sitting on like the deadline day and you have a like depth player, a like backup edge guard, like edge rusher, or a depth linebacker in a divisional team comes.
But if you want to talk about the Jets, though, Breece Hall is not a depth backup player. He's just I'm just giving like a general example. I mean, if you want to include Breece Hall into the don't trade the division, sure. Yeah.
But like I'm talking about like
back down on their asking price for him to anybody. The asking price was the same. It didn't matter if
because like if the Patriots called on,
the ask was still the same.
If the Patriots called on, I would have to go look at the Quincy Williams, who they just benched just because. But like, let's say they called on Quincy Williams, and the Patriots were offering the 5th, and the 49ers were offering the 6th. And this is a guy that like is not part of your future. You're tanking, has no influence on you going forward. Like, take the better pick. Like but that, you were just hurting yourself.
I hear you, but teams don't do that. They don't.
I mean, some teams do.
I mean, it's rare. Again, I mean, for Cleveland, like using that as an example, it makes sense in a way if they're trying to tank on purpose so that they can maximize their draft pick situation in 2026. Fine, but the reality is that teams just don't do that. Like, because the answer then becomes if you trade a player to your arch rival and that player helps your arch rival be better now and in the future, like you're going to be out of a job. You'll get fired for doing that. Like if the Patriots, say the Jets traded Breece Hall to the Patriots because the Patriots came in with a 2nd and nobody else was offering anything higher. They're like, well, we're just going to take the best offer and send him to New England. And then Breece Hall signs an extension and becomes their number 1 running back and helps them win 2 Super Bowls in the next 6 years. And the Jets remain a middling franchise and can't get out of the basement. The GM's going to get fired for trading one of their best players who happens to be on a down year to their arch rival just because they offered the best.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He's not getting fired because of that. That GM is not getting fired because Breece Hall was good. He's getting fired because his team fucking sucks.
Sure,
Let's be real here. No GM is getting fired because of what a player does in another team because you traded inside the division.
I mean, you just said that you would fire your GM if he took a lesser offer to send him to another team outside the division because you didn't want to send him. Like NFL GMs don't get fired over that either.
Yes, because that's malpractice. That you were deliberately taking less return to your team. You were deliberately doing less for your organization.
But do you think the owner isn't in the ear of the GM being like, you can't trade players to this team even for better offers?
I'm sure every team is a little bit different than others. We talked about this. Like we just said, the Jets seemingly weren't. We just heard the Titans. They're not even in the division, and that owner is supposedly not willing to help out the Patriots because of Mike Vrabel. But in my opinion, and again, I know it's not like this around the league, that no, if for some reason the Patriots had to trade Christian Gonzalez this offseason, right? I'm going to avoid almost at all costs trading him within the division.
I wouldn't trade him into the division under any circumstance.
I'm going to even try to avoid trading him within the conference, ideally.
Sure.
But if the Jets came and offered me three first-round picks, and the next best offer was one and a half first-round picks, I'm going to seriously consider taking that 3 first-round picks.
Sure.
Because
Right, and a good NFL owner will tell you no, because you don't trade star players to your arch division rival. Period. End of story.
That's it. The answer to the answer to why it's okay. All you have to do is tell your fan base it was the best offer by this much, and the fan base won't care.
You could also take the the angle that Belichick took and say that, yes, we're trading our star quarterback who we just signed for 10 years, $100 million to our arch rival Buffalo, because we have like way more faith in our next quarterback than we do with the previous one, like the same way that they did with Bledsoe.
But like if you so let's just play that hypothetical. Let's just say if we traded Gonzalez to the Jets for 3 first-round picks, and the next highest was a first in 2 seconds, and I came out as the GM and I said, we took the Jets offer because they offered 3 firsts, and the next highest was a first in 2 seconds. The majority of the fan base is going to have no problem with me trading them to the Jets because it was so far and away the best offer.
Sure,
and
but the reality Kraft would never allow it.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe personally, maybe he will not allow it. But if it also came out after and I took the first in 2 seconds offer, and it ever came out after that the Jets offered me 3 firsts and I said no, I would expect the fan base to be absolutely livid at me and want me fired.
Well, GMs don't care what the fan base thinks. They do what they do what their owner tells them to do.
Well, again, I agree. If the owner is saying no in the end, like they're the one that writes the checks in the team.
Right, like to a degree, just to button up, I agree with you. Your job is to take the offer that makes the team better, right? Whether it's in the now or if you're rebuilding down the line. But I also live in the reality that that's just not what happens in the NFL when it comes to if the best offer comes from your arch rival. In most cases, you're not sending again, if you're talking about, Billy Bob Thornton, who's never going to play for you, fine. But you can look back, like the Dolphins traded Wes Welker to the Patriots. Do you think they regret that trade? 100%, that's a trade that they regret. I just think that the reality is that most teams don't trade their players within the division. I mean, again, I agree with the idea that you're supposed to do what's in the best interest of the football team. It's just most owners are going to tell you, hey, I understand that you got to do what you got to do, but we're not trading.
Oh, here was an interdivision Giants Cowboys trade.
Can you imagine if the Red Sox ever made a trade with the New York Yankees that involved a player of significance? Fenway would burn to the ground. If the Dolphins.
Well, the Yankees traded us Carlos Narvaez. We traded them Alex Verdugo.
I mean, again, not players of significance. Alex Verdugo is not a make or break player. Carlos Narvaez isn't going to be the reason the Red Sox win a World Series. He's good. Don't get me wrong.
But these are starting players on our. Both teams.
I mean, sure. Cedon Rafael is a starting player. He's not a franchise-altering talent.
No, but you just said in general.
I said notable, talented players. I would not consider Carlos Narvaez or Alex Verdugo.
No. You're changing your argument now.
No, I'm not.
Was in general.
I said if the Red Sox ever traded a notable player to the New York Yankees, Fenway would burn to the ground.
Well, yes, but before that, we were just talking about at all trading within the division.
I mean, baseball's a little bit different because rosters are bigger, and not bigger. They're more impactful because of how the sport is run. I mean, I guess an equivalent would be the Red Sox trading their 20th overall prospect to the Yankees would be the equivalent trade that you're talking about. I'm talking about trading Breece Hall to the Patriots would have the Jets were never going to trade Breece Hall to the Patriots.
I mean, the Patriots trade Drew Bledsoe to the Bills.
It's true.
I wonder what else has it been a more notable. The Miami traded Wes Welker to the Patriots, right?
Yes. That's what I
Yeah,
said.
I heard Ben say this, but like to that point, was he like obviously he wasn't like an all pro the way that he was in 07 and his whole career with us, but like was he on his way out or was he like a notable member of that offense?
Wes Welker?
Yeah.
It was like a second-round pick the Pats gave him.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was like a second or third-round pick
Then
that they
never
gave
mind.
Miami.
I don't know if it was that high.
Let's see. Wes Welker, where is he here?
Wes Welker trade.
I'm trying to find it here. Here's an article.
I'm
It
like
says-
90% sure it was like a second or third-round pick.
So it said the official Patriots press release on March 5th, 2007.
Yeah.
New England Patriots acquire wide receiver and kick returner Wes Welker from the Miami Dolphins in exchange for an undisclosed draft pick.
According to
But I
AI, according to Gemini, it was a second and a seventh round pick, and Welker was their leading receiver in 06. So yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
There's
gonna
one.
say it ended up being like I think it was like a conditional third to second, depending on something, and it ended up being a second. Yeah, I mean it's not obviously again NFL trades in general aren't incredibly common, and then when you do make them, you try to avoid the division for obvious reasons. So like it ends up just naturally being less common. But when we're talking about depth guys, like you would just be as a GM, like you would be dumb to like take a fourth instead of a fifth because you're selling off and you don't want to like maybe give this team some more depth.
Yeah.
Like
So
the
Welker thing, it looks like the Patriots were going to match his offer sheet. And instead of matching, because he was a restricted free agent, instead of matching the offer sheet, it says on March 1st, 2007, the Dolphins offered him a second round tender of $1.35 million over 1 year. It says Patriots who are interested in Wes Welker has originally considered signing him to an offer sheet. Miami would then have had 7 days to match the offer. However, according to the Boston Globe, the sheet would have included a poison pill provision, making the offer difficult for the Dolphins to match. So the Patriots ultimately decided to not use an offer and traded their 2007 second and a 7th round pick to the Dolphins. So they opted to not force the Dolphins' hand, and they gave them draft pick compensation instead of signing him to an offer sheet the Dolphins couldn't match.
I wonder why they didn't just force their hand.
Which is
I don't
odd.
know.
It's back when
Yeah,
Bill was a nice guy.
I don't know, but anyways,
Anyway.
we got a little bit off track. The Patriots as a whole
We do that often.
didn't do much didn't do anything at the deadline.
They signed Brendan Rice.
It was definitely disappointing in the sense that I expected them to do something. I didn't expect a ton. I expected maybe 1 or 2 moves. But we'll kind of see how things play out. On the other hand, like teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, they also didn't make moves, which was a little bit surprising.
Yeah, that was a silver lining for me. Just to interject, that was a silver lining for me was that nobody other than the Colts, right? The Colts got better on defense with the Sauce Gardner trade, but there weren't any other major moves at the top of the AFC that really made you go, okay, the teams that are trying to make a push got better and you did nothing. Like the Colts were the only team that made a move of significance to try.
Yeah, it's not like the Chiefs did something big. It's not like Buffalo added a big wide receiver. Like
Right.
none of the other teams other than Colts did something notable. And so it's not the end of the world, but if the Patriots come into the playoffs and they they're just a little bit outmatched, it's going to make you a little bit question, or they have an injury or two and they lack the depth to replace it. It's going to make you wonder, like, should they have made that move? Should they have made that extra trade to add? On the other end of things, one thing we could keep an eye on over the next few weeks, you'll see probably some names get released. You often will see some buyouts, some releases of older veteran guys that are on losing teams. and they want to chase a title, and so their teams just kind of give them the, yeah, sure, we'll cut you so you can go sign somewhere else.
Yeah.
Will the Patriots end up with those players? Obviously, that's a whole different conversation. But there's a very small second wave of potential options of where those where they could potentially add. But we didn't have time to get into the Red Sox. But any final Patriots thoughts before we wrap this up? I see, and that's what I was going to go to. Ben put up his score prediction of a Patriots 3-point loss this week. Our first Patriots prediction loss in a while, which is disappointing. Where are you guys? Where are you at, Zach?
I'm trying to think of when did we last actually predict them to lose?
I think you had them losing to Carolina.
You did.
No.
You did. We thought about that.
But
Yes, we did.
I'm trying to. But like, now that we say that, was I actually being serious, or was I just being a troll for the sake of trolling?
I think it was right after they beat Atlanta like 35.
They beat Atlanta, and then we played terribly and lost. I think like, and that was probably just. I think I was just being silly. I think realistically, the last time I picked them to lose was the Bills game. Like, I was feeling pretty bad going into Carolina because I'm like, we lost to Vegas. That was not a bad loss, but like not a good loss either. And the Pittsburgh was week 3. Like, it's not a terrible loss considering I think they're currently winning the AFC North.
On paper, it was a bad loss, but it was a bad loss. It was a very, very bad game that they played.
Yeah, they didn't play great, but I mean, first game of the season, like, knew everything. It's like, okay, you're still trying to figure shit out. Yeah, I don't think I've picked them to lose since I would have picked them to lose the Bills game.
Okay, I'm having a hard time picking this game.
But I feel like like Carolina was before that, so it would have been the Bills game. But yeah.
So I mean, 27-23, like that's it's good. That's obviously a relatively fair projection. It's going to be a close game either way.
I think if Irving and Godwin play, I'll probably go something similar. 28-24, 28-21 Bucks. If they don't play, I'll go 24-20 Pats. I think if those two, are the difference makers if they win or lose, if they're healthy.
So ChatGPT predicts something to the effect. So they say Patriots are expected to score between 20 and 24, Bucks 23-27. And they think that Drake May will be somewhere between 230 and 260 passing yards.
Oh, well, if ChatGPT. I think it's a toss-up game type of thing. If Tampa was fully healthy offensively, I would be a lot more wary of this game. If they had Mike Evans, Bucky, Godwin, I would be a lot more wary of them, the Patriots being able to slow them down. On top of that, if I'm not mistaken, Baker's been – I mean, they were off last week, but Baker was pretty rough the last week or two. Yeah, the game against the Lions and the Saints, like – he's come down to earth big time the last 2 games.
I mean, his entire he has nobody to throw the ball to. Keep that in mind, and they don't have their starting running back. Okay,
but that's what I'm saying though. So when we're talking about predicting this game, right? I'm gonna go Patriots, and it's gonna be because of that. I just think that. The lack of health offensively for Tampa. The Patriots defense has been continuously progressing a little by little. And I'm going to go with a 30-24 Patriots win. And that
One.
30-24 comes with 1 or 2 forced turnovers from the Patriots defense. It'll be a really good game, I think, overall. But I think, like I said, I think Tampa's offense has been struggling a lot more lately. This is a really good spot for them to kind of take on Tampa. If this game was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have them expected to win, right? If this game was 2 weeks ago, even on the game the Patriots who were having coming off like the Buffalo win and stuff like that, we would probably all be predicting them to lose by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll go 30-24 Patriots. So
Okay.
Any final thoughts?
No, that's it for me.
No, I mean, I was taking care of a situation with the kids, some broken glass. Had to take care of that. Deadline stuff. The last thing I'll say is, I'd kind of hoped for, a couple of moves just to bolster the depth. They're certainly thin at running back if anybody gets hurt. And obviously, they already lost Gibson for the year. We had kind of hoped for certain things when we talked last week, but I think that I can't necessarily say I'm surprised. I know earlier on in the year, I forget who asked him, but somebody had asked Mike Vrabel if would the record at the deadline dictate their plan and their approach at the deadline, and he, without saying no, said no. He basically just said we're gonna stick to our process regardless of what's going on. So, just feels like they didn't want to give up, any future draft capital or younger guys, on the team that can help them down the line just to have a shot to win now when, they're in a really good spot. Obviously, to take advantage of a pretty soft schedule. And, we'll see, but, Pats are looking good, and, hopefully they can make it, 7 games in a row on Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to be insufferable. I don't even care if, like I just said, Tampa's down. But if they come in and beat Tampa, I'm going to be a little bit insufferable next week. So, okay, that's going to do it. We'll be back for episode number 96. I'm going to start putting things into work, hopefully, for a big episode 100 coming up next month. But until then, goodbye, and see you next week when the Patriots are 8-2.